start recording. And I'll also say, I'm not a finance professor. I have a bachelor's of science in accounting, so most of this stuff makes sense, but I'm still learning it just like you guys. So if I make a mistake, anybody feel free to speak up or jump in, and we'll get it fixed. That way I'm not, teaching people bad information. So first, we'll start with 2-1 with question 16, which is Oil Creek Auto has sales of $3,340, net income of $274, net fixed assets of $2,600, and current assets of $920. The firm has 430 in inventory. What is the common size statement value of inventory? So these common size income statement and common size balance sheets are just turning those numbers into percentages so we get a better idea of what we're trying to do. This one is based off the balance sheet, and the balance sheet is always based off total assets. So I got a little whiteboard here. I'm gonna see if I can make this work where we can do math together. We're gonna try and figure it out. So
you say you're on 2-1?
Yeah, 2-1, number 16.
Okay.
So first we have to get our total assets. Total assets is just fixed assets plus current assets. I also have terrible handwriting, so you guys just gotta deal with that as well. I'm sorry. So we're gonna start with 2,600 plus 920. All right, 2,600 plus 920. This gives us 3,520. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
3,520. Now, again, everything on the balance sheet is based off total assets, which is what we just found here at 3,520. So for inventory, we got 430. We'll do, let's see here. So it should be this divided by 430. Let's see what that comes out to. Divided by 430, which equals, no, that's not it. It's the other way. It's the same. Oh, that's not gonna be good. Yeah, so it's got to be 430, which is your inventory, divided by 2,600, which this is 3,520, and that gives us the 0.1222, which we got to, this is just a decimal, we got to turn it into a percentage, so it'll just be 12.22. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Hey, Greg, it's Tiff. Just
Hey.
real quick question. So for me, I'm just trying to figure out, like, I understand that the common size statement for this particular problem, I understand where you got all the
Can you bring my
information
charger
from.
down
But
Hold
is
on
there
one
a
second.
specific-
Hey, will you
Sorry.
please mute if you're not talking?
It's your study.
in the study?
Up there, you get a study and maybe making more money.
Greg, you should have the ability to mute everybody.
Okay, let's see here.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, sorry about that. I couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
No, I apologize. I'm just wondering, so for me, when I look at this, is there immediately an equation I should go to on our sheet that will tell us exactly what we're looking for? Or do I just need to know? And I can definitely get the total, I can get the total assets by combining both the fixed and the current. But is there any specific formula that you go to, or do you just know with your accounting background that we take the inventory and we divide it by those total assets?
There is not a specific equation for this.
Okay,
Since it's a common size statement, it's just turning everything into a percentage.
okay,
So for income statements, everything will be a percentage of sales.
sales.
And then for this one is the balance sheet. We know it's, he kind of throws us off in the beginning because he talks about sales and net income. Both of those are irrelevant since we're trying to find the common size statement of inventory.
Okay,
And then that's just based off the total assets.
okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
Yeah, I don't think that one actually had a formula for that one.
Yeah, that one, he did not give one for. He hit briefly on common size income statements and balance sheets. Which again, it just turns the numbers into a percentage of whatever we're basing it off of. So this one, if you need to write an equation down for a common size balance sheet, it'll be whatever you're trying to find the percentage of divided by total assets. That's balance sheet only. If it's common size income statement, it'll be whatever you're trying to find divided by total sales. So like here, he has net income of 274. If he said, what is the common size statement value of net income? We would just go to 274 divided by sales, because it's the income statement, which would be 3340, which tells us 0.082, which means that net income is 8.2% of sales, which means for every dollar we get in sales, we get 8.2 cents at the bottom line.
I don't know if this will be helpful for anybody. I just took accounting. And I have a social work background, so there's that. But I did just take accounting, and the way that I remember is the balance sheet is, I look at it as BAL, B-A-L for balance sheet equals assets, liabilities. I see it as ALE. BAL equals ALE. Assets equal liabilities and equities. And the income statement is money coming in, which is sales. I don't know if that's helpful to anybody, but that's how I'm processing it in my head. So if that's helpful, hopefully it is, or maybe I'm wrong. That's just how I'm thinking of it. Greg, am I on point or am I making stuff up?
Can you say that again, please?
So the balance sheet is, in my head, I see it as BAL, B-A-L, which is balance sheet, equals the assets, which equals liabilities. Sorry, assets equals liabilities and equities, ALE. And the income statement references all the money that's coming in, which is our sales. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Oh,
Yes,
good.
thanks.
I'm glad I know some things about something, maybe.
That's actually going to come in very helpful because most of these, that equation helps a lot. So always remember assets equals liabilities plus equity, because a lot of these he'll give you like a portion of, and that equation is what we're going to use to work our way back through it. So like 18 will be the first place we hit that. So are there any more questions before we move on to 17? And do y'all want to go through the math, or are you just looking for the ratios?
I really appreciate the math.
Okay, we can do it then. So we'll move on to 17. So 17, Duke's Garage has cash of 68, accounts receivable of 142, accounts payable of 235, and inventory of 318. What is the value of the quick ratio? So the quick ratio he did give us, which is also known as the acid test, It is current assets minus inventory divided by current liabilities. So in this equation, he gives us cash, accounts receivable, and inventory, which are all current assets. However, we don't need the inventory because we take it out in the equation. So let's just ignore that for now. And let's just do cash plus accounts receivable, which is 68 plus 142. And that gives us 210. Now we go to the quick ratio, which is divided by current liabilities. The important part there is to remember current liabilities. That's different from all liabilities. So here, accounts payable, that is current liability, is 235. So we divide this by 235. And that gives us 0.8936, which is D, just 0.89. Any questions on that one?
I had a quick question. Where did you find the quick ratio formula?
It's in his PowerPoint, but I wrote all of them down on my notebook right now, and this is what I'll use to like transition it onto an index card. But the quick ratio is, I can write it down here. I'll leave this up.
It's
The quick
on
ratio.
page 10 on M2.
On
If
the
they help.
PowerPoints? Okay, thank you.
On the PowerPoint. You're welcome.
And you know what, guys, I don't know what exactly we're allowed to write on that card, but page 23, like that's the one that I've been going to. And I kind of keep that in front of me while I'm doing these problems, because almost every single thing can be answered with one of the equations for the first section in here. I just need to make sure I'm picking the right numbers.
No, right?
So if there are, oh,
I'm sorry, what page was that, Tiffany?
It's page 23, guys. It's the table 3.5.
are there any more questions on 17? Hearing none, moving on to 18. I really don't like these types of questions because they don't really give you anything solid. They allow you to make assumptions, which gives us a lot of room for error. But the question is, if a firm has a debt to equity ratio of 1, then its total debt ratio must be which of the following? So if we look, the debt to equity ratio is total debts divided by total equity. Of course, we always want to remember assets equals liability plus equity. This is the first one we get into this. So if we have a debt to equity ratio of 1, that means total debt divided by total equity, 1 divided by 1 equals 1, right? So using this, we know total debts is 1, total equity is 1, which means assets must equal 2. Then he wants us to know what is the total debt ratio. The total debt ratio is total debt divided by total assets. Well, we know assets is 2. We know total debt is 1. Boop. So that means it's 0.5. Any questions on that one?
So sorry, Greg, you're gonna.
No,
hate
you're
me.
fine. No.
Okay, so I get, okay, total debt is 1 divided by our total equity, and that gave us our,
That
What
gave
is-
us our ratio of 1. So in the beginning, it says a debt to equity ratio of 1.
okay,
So that just tells us that total debt is the same as total equity, because when we divide two like numbers, it goes into itself one time.
okay.
Then we go to this equation.
Mhm.
Total debt is liabilities, which is 1. Total equity is 1. When we add those two, we get our total assets, which is 2.
Okay,
Then we just move the total debt here and it gives us 0.5.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions on that one? All right.
Hey, Tiffany, on slide 11, it goes over the formula for total debt ratio. Total debt divided by total assets.
So are there anything else on that one?
No.
No. All right. Now we're going to get into a little bit more of the fun stuff. If I get a little too far ahead on this one, let me know. So SS Stores has a total debt of 4910 and a debt to equity ratio of 0.52. What is the value of the total assets? All right, so I always like to write down, in any equation, I like to write down the factors that I know, which I know that our liabilities equals 4910. And I know we have a debt to equity ratio of 0.52. Again, when we come back to this ratio, we know that the debt to equity ratio is total debt divided by total equity. So we have 9, 10. We have our total debt divided by something. I like to use X because this is just a simple algebra equation, equals 0.52, right? So from here, we'll solve for X. Now, in order to do that, what I do is I have to break this apart. Basic algebra, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. We're trying to solve for X. So I'm going to multiply both sides by X, which when I do that, it gives me 4910 equals 0.52X, right? So now I got to get X by itself. I'm gonna multiply both sides by 0.52. So when I do that, I get X equals 4910 times 0.52. Where is this? That doesn't look right. Oh, sorry, I'm multiplying these. I did it wrong. So I can't multiply because X is being multiplied. So I have to divide all of this by 0.52. Right? So when I do that, it's the opposite. We get 4910 divided by 0.52. And that gives me 9,442.31 because we're rounding to 2 decimal points, right? So that tells me what X is. When we go back to this equation, I know that X is my total equity, right? So that means equity equals 9,442.31. Then we just have our equation here. We add 4910, and that gives us 14,352.31. It's not as bad as it seems. I messed up in the beginning, but so first this was being divided, so I had to multiply it to move the X, right? Then here, technically this is 0.52 times X. I have to get it to the other side, so I have to divide by it, which 4910 divided by the 0.52 gives me X equals 9,442.31. That plugged in here is my equity. Then we add these because again, in this, he's asking for what is the value of the total assets. The total assets equals these two numbers, which is 352.31. Any questions on that one?
Does that make sense to everybody? Is Since I'm from a social work background, algebra, it's not something I use every day. Does that make sense? I had to get my daughter's help in accounting. I'm like, algebra, what?
Yeah, so I guess for me, guys, the only part that kind of confuses me a little bit is, so I understand how we get to the total equity, right? I'm fine with that, but I'm kind of confused on why we add it with the total debt.
Because in the questions, he's asking what is the value of total assets?
Okay,
And assets equals liability plus equity. Liability
Oh.
is total debt.
okay, liability is total debt, okay.
It
Like,
goes
that's
back
one
to
of
that ALE equation.
Yeah, that's one of the, like, the most important formulas that you have to know in order to do like basic certain accounting and finance things. So like that's something that needs to be on your card and like bolded.
Does anyone
then
have
you
like
also-
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, knowing what your liabilities are and what your equity are. So with each of these, it kind of funnels down to more granular things. So if you've not taken accounting, even if you haven't, it's not that difficult, but knowing what your liabilities are and your equities are will help. So when you're studying, and if you write ALE on your notes card for the exam, knowing what equals those liabilities, what equals those equities are important, because when you're looking at the balance sheet, it's not, you have to know what each of those are.
And I don't know if this is gonna help. One thing I use to remember that is, imagine you're buying a house. All right, when I go and buy that house, let's say it's a $300,000 house total. I pay $100,000 down and I get a loan for $200,000. That house is still worth $300,000, which is my asset. That's my house. Same thing as an office building, a truck, whatever. That's an asset. That equals 300, right? That loan the bank gave me is 200. That's my debt, right? So my equity is what I actually own, which is 100. And it's the same thing in business. Equity is ownership, liability is debts, and then assets is what you actually own. It's the total value of the two. Any other questions on that one? No? We'll move on to 20. Corner Books has a debt to equity ratio of 0.57. What is the total debt ratio? So again, we know 0.57 is our total debt and total equity. So how do we get that number? Well, if we divide that number by 1, we get 0.57, right? When we add these two, because again, this is my liability, this is my equity, my assets would be 1.57 divided. And the total debt ratio again is liabilities over assets, which is that 0.57 again. When we do that, 57 divided by 1.57 equals 0.363. Which is just 0.36 and 2 decimal points, which is our total debt ratio. Any questions on that one?
Okay, based on the information that you had just said about the house and loan, so if we're saying 0.57 is L, yeah, and then
Yes.
0.57 is also E.
No. So 0.57. So what it's telling us is our debt to equity ratio, which is liability divided by equity equals 0.57, right? he didn't give us any of these variables. So I have to find something that equals 0.57. Well, I know when I divide this number by 1, I get 0.57. So the end, he's asking, what is the total debt ratio? I know my liabilities and I know my equity. The total debt ratio is liabilities divided by assets. This is debt to equity. Debt to equity. And this is our total debt ratio. So again, liabilities plus equity equals assets. I know what these are, and that's 1.57. Or sorry, I put that in the wrong spot. It is 1.57. It just doesn't go there. It goes down here at the bottom. Our assets is 1.57. And I know, again, I'm trying to find my liability, which is this 0.57 equals the 0.36.
I guess I'm a little confused just on the bottom for the assets there, where the 1.57 came from.
Here, assets equals liability plus equity, and our debt to equity ratio,
Oh, I got
debt
you.
is liability. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
So just
You got it.
ignore the rest of this because that's where it can get confusing. I
Mhm.
know what E is and I know what L is, which gives me A, 1.57.
Yep.
Is everybody good on that one?
Thank you.
And that's the reason I really hate those types of problems is your mind can wander in a lot of different ways whenever you're given, one thing to find the ratios on. So that's why I prefer the ones where he gives us a set number to allow us to work off of. Those, I don't know, for me, they add too many ways for me to mess it up.
Quick question. So I was skimming through the PowerPoints and it seems like almost every PowerPoint has a different page for a different formula. Is there one central location where there's all the formulas that we'll need for the test?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Tiffany was talking earlier about a page she was using that had a lot of them on it. I don't know if it has all of them though. I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either. I feel like we're gonna have to write every single one down on your little cue card.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I've actually, through each slide deck, I'll take, and I just have made notes. And I have like a separate sheets that I'm trying to start condensing it. I'm just concerned with what's going to be acceptable on those note cards. Because he says it has to just be acronyms and some of these equations are written out in words. So do we just have to memorize those, or you know what I mean?
I can
But-
tell you, I took finance with Kendall and then wound up dropping it. And she had the same requirement. And they didn't really look at the cards that heavy. So I think you should be okay. I think it's a lot of wording, then like, yeah, there's gonna be a problem. But like, if there's a couple you have to write out, it's fine.
Thank you.
Rochelle, that looks amazing.
I'm showing y'all it's so many words. I feel like they're gonna like be what's going on. You got words literally on there. I'm gonna make an extra one just in case. And hopefully I can remember it.
That's insane. It's all fun though. We're just having a good time doing some math. Are there any more questions on 20? Hearing none, we'll move on to 21. I'm not going to read, well, I will. The Uptowner has sales of 913,400, cost of goods sold of 579,300, inventory of 123,900, and accounts receivable of 78,900. How many days on average does it take the firm to sell its inventory, assuming that all sales are on credit? Don't know what that on credit means, so we will do what we know. which is total set, or it's our inventory turnover is cost of goods sold divided by inventory. So our cost of goods sold, COGS, equals 579,300. Our inventory equals 123,900. So its cost of goods sold 579,300 divided by 123,900, which gives us 4.68. We'll round up 68. All right. Now the question is asking how many days does it take us to, on average, to sell our inventory? So we have to then use the day sales in inventory equation, which is just how many days in the year, 365, divided by our inventory turnover, which is 4.68, equals 365 divided by 4.68 equals 77.9. I guess rounding threw me off a little bit there. All right, let's go. We'll go back. 579,300 divided by 123,900, 4.6755. So we'll just erase this. 4.6755. We'll use all 4 decimal points because that's what he wants. And then do the same thing here as well. 4.6755. And now let's see what we get. 365 divided by 4.6755 equals 78.0665. But in his, he has it as 0.07, so he can round up. We're not allowed to. 0.665 or 0.67. And that's our answer. Any questions on that one?
For that one, for my, I mean, I made kind of a formula for that one. So that was just a 365 divided by goods sold divided by inventory. So like days equals 365 divided by, I abbreviated goods sold, just GS/IN. I put it on the chat. That's how I put my formula. Try to kind of help me remember it.
It's the same thing. You just, a couple things. One, just be careful what he's asking for. So if he just asks for the inventory turnover, he'll want that decimal point. But if he asks for the days, yours is right. Just make sure in your.
Oh yeah, I have a different one for that one for the inventory. I think I put you because you put a decimal on that one, right?
Yeah, it's just cost of goods sold divided by inventory. So that was the 4.6775 or 755. Just in your equation, just make sure that bottom has parentheses around the cost of goods sold divided by inventory. So that's the first thing it does. And then, yeah, that's the same thing. So we will move on to 22 unless there are any further questions. So 22, the Harrisburg store has net working capital of 2,715, net fixed assets of 22,407, sales of 31,350, and current liabilities of 3,908. How many dollars worth of sales are generated from every $1 in total assets? So we got to do a couple things here. First, we have to get our total assets. So let me find this net working capital. First, we got to figure out net working capital. I'm pretty sure it's current assets divided by current liability. Yeah, current assets. Oh, it's current assets minus current liabilities. So we know we got to work backwards. So net working capital, again, we'll just take all the variables. NWC equals 2715. Our current liabilities equals 3908. So I know this number is our current assets minus this. So I just add them together. So that's 2715 plus 3908 equals 6623. This is our current assets, right? Now it's asking for how many dollars worth of sales are generated for every dollar in total assets. Now we have to add this, our current assets, to our net fixed assets, which is 22,407 plus the 6623, which gives us 29,030. That should be our total assets. Now we want to know how many dollars we sell per total asset. So we go into our equations. And there is an equation for this, which is, oh wait, that's accounts receivables. It's sales divided by total assets. So this is our total asset turnover. Okay, so sales divided by total assets. Our sales are 31,350. Yep, divided by our total assets, which is 29,030. So when we do that, 31,350 divided by 29,030, that gives us 1.0799, or in the answer's case, 1.08. This is one we just had to work back on.
Sorry,
Are there
how'd
any
you get the
questions on it?
TA again? How'd you get the total asset?
I took so the net working capital is 2715. This equation is current assets minus current liabilities. So it gives us the current liabilities. I know this number plus this gives us our current assets. I then took our current assets and added it to our net fixed assets, which he gives us at 22,407. I'm just gonna put FA for fixed assets. These two give us our total assets. And then he's asking for sales generated. And that puts us down here.
Thank you.
No problem. Any more questions on that one?
Yeah, hey Greg, would that the formula that I put on there for the total asset turnover, would that one work? I mean, that's pretty much what you did, but I kind of like, that way I know what variables I'm looking for.
Sales divided by net working capital. Yes.
So that's what I have. I've been using it and it's been working, but I was just making sure like if anything else is thrown in there, it would still come out. That's pretty much what you did.
Yeah, no, it should. I don't see that should work just fine.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions on this one?
I think the problem's gonna be just memorizing all these acronyms that I'm placing in there, letters.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the difficult things is going to be like this question where he has you work back and doesn't give you any idea, like networking. If you're just looking at this, you have no idea what your total assets
Exactly.
are. You just have to work your way back. So just make sure you go through all your equations and see if there's one that makes sense that helps you, figure out different parts of this or, whatever else. Any other questions on this one? Moving on to 23, TJ's has annual sales of $813,200, total debt of $171,000, and total equity of $396,000, and a profit margin of 5.78%. What are the return on assets? So we go into our equation thing and find our return on assets is net income divided by total assets. Net income divided by total assets. All right, so well, what do we know? Not much of anything, but I do know my total debt and total equity are these numbers. Liability plus equity. So our liability is 171,000. And I know my total equity is 396,000. So I can use this to get my assets. 171, 123 plus 396. That gives me 567,000.
567,000, that's how much I'm gonna have to.
This is my total assets. Now I need my net income. Okay. I know we have sales of 813,200, but I need my net income. The profit margin of 5.78% tells me for every dollar of sales I get 5.78 cents at the bottom line. So what I'll do is I'll take my sales, which is 813,200, 13200, and multiply it by that 5.78%. 5.78. So 813,200 times. Now remember, we have to turn this into a percentage. So when we multiply it, it's going to be 0.0578 equals 47,000 net income equal 47. I'm just going to write it here. 47 002.96 002.96. And then we just divide these 47,002.96 divided by 567,123 equals 0.0829, which when we turn it in, it turns into 8.29%. Any questions on that one? No? Nothing on this one?
and to continue their life cycle. But as they're riding an animal,
All right, we'll move on to 24. So, sorry. Frank's Used Cars has sales of 807,200. Total assets. Will everybody mute?
we've already seen when we talked about
Frank's Used Cars has sales of 807,200. Total assets of 768,100 and a profit margin of 6.68%. The firm has a total debt ratio of 54%. What is the return on equity? So here we need to find our equity. And we got to look at our equation. I'm pretty sure this is net income. Yeah, net income divided by total equity. So what we are going to do is figure out our equity. Well, we know our total assets is total assets, 768,100. Right? And I know we have a total debt ratio of 54%. Well, let's look here. I'm pretty sure the total debt is liabilities over. Yeah, our total debt ratio is total liabilities divided by total assets. So I don't know what my total liabilities are. I do know my total assets is 768,100, right? And I know this equation equals 0.54 or 54%. That is our total debt ratio. So I have to use this to find X. In order to do that, I need to move this 768,000. And I'm going to do that by multiplying both sides by that number to get rid of this. So what I'll do is I'll get X equals 768,100 times 0.54 equals. So X equals 414,774. 414,774, right? Let's double check that. So let's do 414,770. Nope, 774. 774 divided by 768,100. That gives me 0.54. So this would be our liabilities. We now know X, or in reality, this is L, equals 414,774. I also know this is my total assets, which leads us back to this equation. So what I'll do is I'll do 768,100 minus 414,774 equals, I'm gonna do that over here. So our total assets, 768,100 minus, here, the 414,774. And that gives us 353,326. This is our total equity. All right, next. So it's net income divided by total equity. Again, it's really just finding pieces of a puzzle. Here we know our total equity is 353,326. Now we got to find our net income. Well, I know we have $807,200 in sales and a profit margin of 6.68. So what I'll do is I'll do 807,200 times 0.0668 for the profit margin, and that gives me 53,920.96. 53,920.96. So if we do this, 53,920.96 divided by 353,326 equals 0.1526. This equals 0.1526, which is also 15.26%. Any questions on that one? Again, these are just, this is feeding back into our equation, and we're having to use other ratios to work our way back into it to get pieces of the puzzle, which will help us solve this equation. Cool. Moving on, we will go to Bernice's has 823,000 in sales. The profit margin is 4.2%, and the firm has 7,500 shares of stock outstanding. The market price per share is 16.5. What is the price to earnings ratio? So we go back into our book and find price to earnings ratio, which is price per share equals earning per share. Put over your price per share. Oh, and price per share divided by earnings per share, right? So we have to figure these two things out. Well, we know we have 7,500 shares of stock. Our market price is 16.5. So we do 16.5 times 16.5 times our shares of stock, 7,500. Oh, wait. We actually know our price per share. I'm getting ahead of myself. 16.5. He gives it to us. That's our price per share. I'm sorry. So 16.5. Now we have to figure out our earnings per share. And in order to do that, we have to know our earnings. So that'll be our sales. 823,123 times our profit margin times 0.042. And that gives us 823 times 0.042, 34,566. So I know that's our income. It's our total earnings. So I want to figure out how much we get per share. We just take that, divide it by our shares of stock, divided by 7,500. So 34,566 divided by 7,500 equals 4.6088. 4.6088. So our earning per share We'll do that 16.5 divided by 4.6088 equals 3.5801. Or 3.58. That's how much that's our price to earnings ratio. Any questions on that one? Sorry, I know I got confusing in the beginning, but our price per share, they give 16.5. We then got to get our earnings per share. We know how much we had in sales. We know our profit margin. Our profit margin is again, he tells us 4.2%, which means 4.2 cents of every dollar in sales hits the bottom line. The bottom line is our net income. That gives us 34,566. We divide our net income by our shares of stock, which gives us earnings per share. And that gives us 3.58. No questions on that one? We'll keep moving. So 26, I struggled on. This one is a DuPont identity question. So I will share how he did it and do my best to explain it. Again, I don't know this one that well, but I understand how he got what he got. So Oscar's Doghouse has a profit margin of 5.6%, a return on assets of 12.5%, and an equity multiplier of 1.49. What is the return on equity? So we go to our DuPont identity. It gives us our equity multiplier. Equity multiplier equals 1.49. 1.49. And this also gives us a return on assets, ROA, of 12.5%. Now, we know our return on assets is net income divided by total assets. Now, in the DuPont identity, it has two pieces, which is net income over sales and then sales over total assets. I'm not that great at multiplying fractions, but I believe when we have NI over sales times sales over total assets, when we multiply these cancel out, which then gives us net income over total assets. This is our return on assets. So when we do the DuPont identity, it's 12.5 times 1.49. I believe that's what it is. See here, 12.5 times 1.49. That gives us 18.625, which when we round up is 18.63%. I struggled with that one. This is what I gathered from his solution. Are there any questions I can try to answer? None? Next. 27, a firm has a debt to equity ratio of 0.62, a total asset turnover of 1.24, a profit margin of 5.1, and the total equity is 489,600. What is the amount of net income? We got a lot going on here. So what we are going to do is see what we have. So we have total equity. I know total asset turnover, and I have a debt to equity ratio of 0.62. Well, that debt to equity ratio helps me out a little bit because I know my equity is 489, 600. So my debt to equity ratio is total liabilities over total equity, which tells me that liabilities divided by 489, 600 equals 0.62. 0.62. So we solve for our liabilities. We do this by multiplying both sides by this 489. No, by this 489, 600. So 489, 600 times 0.62 equals 300, which means L equals 303,552. Right? Again, we just multiplied each by this to move it over, get L by itself. And we can check that again by just plugging it in. 552 divided by 489, 600 equals 0.62. So let's see, what are we trying to get here? Net income. So this tells us our total assets equals these two numbers added is 489,600 plus 303,552 793,152 gives me total assets. Now I know my total assets and I know my total asset turnover is 1.24. So when we go to total asset turnover, I know sales divided by total assets gives me that 1.24. So we go over here to sales, which we don't know, divided by our total assets, 793,152 equals 1.24. Right? So we just want to solve for S here. So S equals, and again, same thing we did up here. We got to move this over here. We're going to do that by multiplying both sides by that 793,152 times 24. That gives us sales equals 983,508.48. So that tells me our sales. I also know our profit margin, which is 5.1%. That tells me 5.1 cents of every dollar makes it to the bottom line. And we are looking for our net income. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this by 0.051, which gives me, so multiply this by 0.051 equals 50,158.93. Or if we round it up, it'll be 50,159. So that would be C. Any questions on that one? Is everybody good? Am I moving too fast or is this making sense? Everybody solid? Cool. So 28, K9 Supply has sales of $2,800, total assets of $1,900, and a debt to equity ratio of 0.5. Its return on equity is 15%. What is the net income? So we're trying to find net income. We have sales, debt to equity ratio, and a return on equity. That return on equity is our net income divided by total equity. So that is going to help us get net income. So let's throw that up here because we got to find these pieces of the puzzle. Net income divided by total equity. We got to get here. I know my total assets is 1,900. Total asset, 1,900. I also know I have a debt to equity ratio of 0.5. Oh, this is another one I had trouble on. Total debt over total equity equals 0.5. Let me see real quick how he solved it because I did it a different way. The return on equity is 0.15. Net income divided by 2,800, which is sales. 2,800 divided by 1,900 and times 1.5. So the way he did it, he did it the DuPont style, which didn't make sense to me. So what I'll do is I'll show you the way I did it, and then we'll go over how he did it because we did it two different ways. I know this is 0.5, which tells me that this is 1/2, right? This number is our total assets, which is 3. Okay. So 1/2, again, this is liability equity equals 3. I divided 1,900 by 3. 1,900 divided by 3, which gives me, what I did is I did 633.33 over, and I subtracted that from 1,900. 1,900 minus 633.33, which gives me 1,266.67. Okay. And when we do that, 633.33 divided by 1,266.67 equals 0.5. Right? Then I know net income. This gives me, this is my total equity, right? And I know net income divided by total equity equals 15%. So NI over 1266.67 equals 15 or 0.15. So again, we just solve 66.67 times. So we have to solve for net income. We'll multiply like we did before our equity, or we'll multiply this bottom by 1266.67 to move it over here. And when we do that, we get NI by itself. NI equals, and when we do that, we get this times 0.15, because we got to make it a percent, as 190.0005. I got to put that in there because I'm pretty sure my answer is closer than what I got when I did it his way. So that's how I did it. Again, I have low confidence in this way, but he did it through the DuPont identity, which we will do as well to see what we get. So when we do this, does everybody have this? Are we good? I'm going to leave this here and erase the rest of this shenanigans. When we do it his way, we get, so for the PM, or DuPont identities, PM times turnover, total asset turnover, times equity multiplier. So we know our equity multiplier, 1.5. It's return on equity. Net income divided by total equity. I don't know how we got 1.5, if I'm being honest with you guys. Total assets divided by total equity. Let's see here. But he just puts 1.5. I'm not sure. So he puts 1.5 here.
So that confuses me too. I mean, I'm wondering, does he just have that number and every single time it seems to be 1 plus whatever the equity multiplier, or the, whatever the debt income equity ratio is? I mean, on every problem, if it is 0.5, it becomes 1.5. I mean, I'd love to know where the 1 comes from.
Total assets divided by total equity. All right, let's work through this real quick, actually, because, all right, let's see if we can work through it. So our debt to equity ratio is 0.5, right? That's L over E. Again, we know anything divided by 1 is what it is. So 0.5 divided by 1 equals 0.5. Now we have our equity. So this is what he's doing. Because then this equals, but that equals our assets, which is 1.5. Which is total assets divided by total equity. 1.5 divided by 1. That's how he does it, 1.5. Y'all get, okay. All right, so he gives us 0.5. This is our debt to equity ratio. We've done this several times before. When we do 0.5 divided by 1, we get 0.5, right? When we add these, it gives us our asset of 1.5 because we're doing equity, which is 1, plus liabilities, which is 0.5. Now our equity multiplier is total assets divided by total equity. Our equity is 1. When we do 1.5 divided by 1, we get 1.5. Does that make sense to everybody? Probably could have busted that out a little more in the answers, but it's okay. We're learning. So our equity multiplier, we now know is 1.5, and we know how we got it. That's awesome. Thank you, Tiffany. You are fantastic. Our total asset turnover is sales divided by total assets, which we have both. 2,800 over 1,900. And then we have our profit margin, which is net income divided by sales. But we don't know what net income is, divided by sales. Oh, wait, we do know what sales is. Sales is 2,800. 2,800. Right? So let's try and solve these and see what we get. Let's do 2,800 divided by 1,900. That gives us 1.4737. This one will just wind up dropping down, and then we've got here net income. Net income still over the 2,800 because we can't break that down yet. Right, so let's multiply these together, which gives us 1.4737 times 1.5, which gives us now 2.2105. Okay, we still have this one. Net income divided by 2,800. All right, we're still trying to solve for net income, which is X. We have to move these. So what we're going to do is divide this by this 2.2105, which give us, I'm just seeing how this works, honestly, because I don't know how to do it this way. 2.2105. And then over here, once we divide by this one, we'll have this net income that is not going to work, because when I multiply that by 2,800, I'm going to get a very large number. It's being multiplied. $2,800 times 1.4737. No. How did you get this? Let me try it this way. Let's try it here. So I'm going to go back to this equation because he has. Oh, okay, yeah. So return on equity, which is all of what all this is going after, is 0.15, right? So here we still have these two. That's where I was confused on. I needed something on the other side of the equation. So I've got NI, W, whatever, NI, net income, 2,800. And here I've got this 1.4737. All right, so let's see what happens when we do that, because I got to divide these multiplications. 1. So when I divide these sides both by this, I get 0.0982. And I have this NI, that's more like it, over 2,800. So when I multiply both sides by this 2,800, because I got to move it to get my NI, I'm probably going to get, no, 0.0982 times 2,800 is not what I'm looking for. $1.4737. Oh, I put that as, is not what it's supposed to be. I don't know if that's gonna help at all, but we're gonna try it. 0.2211. Sorry, y'all are just sitting here watching me struggle. I don't know how he did it his way. So I'm trying times 0.2211 equals. Oh, no, that's not it. 0.2211.
Hey, Greg, it's Tiff.
Hey,
So for that one, I wrote out just that the entire equation, which is the ROE equals the PM times the TAT times the EM.
mhm.
So how I kind of, and I don't really know, I'm still kind of struggling here. So you guys tell me, I don't want to give anyone wrong information. But for the TAT, I had that number as we figure it out by the sales divided by our total assets. So that was the TAT. And then I have the EM part of the equation as the 1.5 we already figured out. So I guess for me, do we just then take the TAT times the EM and we're just then trying to determine how to get to the NI? Sorry, guys,
So,
I'm grasping here.
no, I'm obviously struggling. So the way he has it, he already gave us the return on equity, which is 0.15, right? 15%. I'm just going to put PM for now because I'm confusing myself. TAT, which is whenever we do, is the 2,800 divided by 1,900,
Right.
which gives us 1.4737. Write down how I got this. When I multiply 1.4737 times our equity multiplier, which is 1.5, I get 1.4737 times 1.5 equals, these two will be 2.2106 PM, just to keep it simple for now, equals 0.15, right? There's an X in here I'm still trying to solve for. That X is net income. In order to do that, I have to divide both sides by this 2.210. I thought it was 0.06. In order to do that, I have to move that. So I multiply both sides by that 2.2106 times 0.15. That gives me a 0.3316 here equals our X over 2,800. Because it's our net income divided by sales. So now I multiply that by 2,800. I did the wrong one. Hold on. 0.3316 times 2,800 equals, oh, is it 0.0? Yeah, I don't know how he got his answer. I'm gonna have to figure that out. I showed how I got it. I'm gonna have to work on his to try and figure out how he got it, but I won't waste everybody's time as I sit here and struggle with this one. That one hopefully is not on a test. I gotta figure that one out. And if I do, I'll let you guys know. Or if somebody else figures it out, you can let me know and we can all be happy. Get rid of this one. Now we'll move on to the next one. Are there any questions on that? None. Are there any questions on M2-2 before 18 that anybody is confused on or may need help with the math? I don't hear any. So what I'm going to do, most of these are done with the calculator, right?
Yeah.
When I learned finance in college, I took one finance class and I struggled with it tremendously, which is kind of funny because I did well in accounting. When we did this, we did it through Excel. So it's similar to this. So things to remember. N equals number of periods. Right? And this is on the calculator. I/Y equals R, which is interest rate. PV is present value. PMT is payment. And then FV is future value. Right? These two have to be the same. And like must be same time-wise. Which means if my number of periods is in years, my interest rate has to be in years as well. I can't have a monthly interest rate in yearly periods. It's not going to add up right. So they're both either in years, whatever. Whenever we can solve for any of these, right? So if I have present value, interest rate, and future value, I can know how many periods. The calculator solves for all this stuff. As long as I can fill in at least 3 of these others. Payment is kind of different. Payment can be 0. And what payment is the amount of money I either put in or take out over the number of periods. So if I put, let's say present value is, I put $3,000 into an account that earns an interest rate of 3, but let's say I get 3% a year. I'm going to put it in there for 10 years, but every year I'm going to put another $100 into it. That payment is where I'm going to put that $100, right? Calculating this, make sure that you're showing it as you're putting it in and not taking it out. So I'm assuming if this is negative, your payment is going to have to be negative as well if I'm trying to get future value. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
And we can solve for that too. So 3,000 negative is present value. We've got a 3% interest rate. 10 is our number of periods. And then I'm going to put $100 in negative as a payment. Compute future value. My future value equals 5178.14. And that's just one I just did. So what I did, present value, I put in a negative. That's saying I took it out of my bank account and put it into wherever it wants to go. If you put it in as a positive, your calculator thinks you owe that amount.
Negative. Yeah.
Right. I also put the payment in as a negative to show these two are the same. So that way, I don't want it thinking I'm taking $100 out. I want it to know I'm putting $100 in the same account with 3 interest at 10. At the end, I have almost $5,200. So let's burn through some of these. Can't hold that up forever. But I will do my best to. So let's start with 18. Al invested $36.30 in an account that pays 6% simple interest. Oh, this one sucks. Also remember, if you do it this way, this is going to compound your interest, right? So we have to, when we do something like simple interest, the way I do it, so we've got 36.30. It pays 6%. So I'm going to multiply that by times 0.06, which gives me, so I've got 36.30. I'm going to multiply it by our interest rate of 6.06. That gives me 217.8. This is how much interest I'm going to earn off this base at 6%. This doesn't compound. So what I do is, how much money will you have at the end of 5 years? You multiply this by 5, because this is how much interest you're going to get every year at a simple interest rate. It's an ugly 5. I'm sorry. I can't have that bad of a 5 on there. 5. It's a little bit better. Still terrible though. Times 5 equals 1089. Now it's asking us, how much money will you have? So we take that 1089 and add it to our base 36.30. That gives us 4719. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions?
Yeah.
Does everybody know how to put it in the calculator too? For these, that's really the most critical thing, is just putting it in the calculator correctly. These present value of cash and future value of cash, they're calculator equations. Like, yeah, he gives you a bunch of equations, and worst case, you have to do it. So I'd say write them down, but your calculator, if you have one of these TIBA2 pluses, it does everything. You just have to know how to put it in. Are there any questions on that one? All right, so next, Marty's coin collection contains 50 1948 silver dollars. Her grandparents purchased them at their face value in 1948. These coins have appreciated by 7.6% annually. How much will the collection be worth in 2025? So again, this is the same thing. We've got to find the pieces of this puzzle. Let's see here. So we know our interest rate is 7.6, right? We know the present value is 50. They got 50 silver dollars in 1948. So our present value is 50. N is 1948 to 2025, which is 77 years. 77, right? We know our payment is 0. We're not adding to anything else. They're coins. So when we put that in, 77 in, 7.6 will be the IY. Present value is 50 or negative 50. and we want to compute. Here, let me make sure 0 PMT. We want to compute future value, which gives us 077.155. When we round that up, it's 0.16, which is E. Any questions on that? Is everybody good so far? Good.
Yeah, I think these are pretty, they're not too bad. I think it's the formula, other ones, man. These are just all calculator.
Yeah. Does everybody want to keep going through them all, or it's up to you guys? Oh, we got some chats. Let's see here. Everybody is leaving. Okay, well, I can keep going through them. If there's certain ones, like I know the later ones, like the cash flow, I had some challenges with as well.
Yeah, I didn't get down to 28. No, I haven't got to 28 and down. So I still need to work on a couple more.
Yeah, they start to get, so 28 is a good one. I actually like that. It's just a lot of work. It's really simple. All the variables are
Okay.
there. You just have to put them all in and work through every single point. Also, like looking at it, when you compute the interest rate, like it automatically tells you which one it is, but I still worked it all out just so I had the experience.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I still have to work through the rest personally. Yeah, man, that one we struggled with, I had solved it. I can't solve it anymore.
Yeah, I did too.
The one with
Somehow,
the net income.
yeah, somehow before when I was doing that one, I got 0.0679 equals the PM. So I got to figure out how to get back there.
Yeah, I got to work on. I think so far from what we did, I appreciate it. I just have to go over like 3 of them, just to get a better understanding with my formulas. And then, hey man, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. I hope it actually helped some. I know I just ran through these, so I hope it made sense.
It was
was good
huge.
development.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Greg. You're very much
Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah, no problem. Is there anything else? Anybody want to keep going through these? Do you
Yeah,
guys get it?
The only thing that I had a question about is like the one number 30. So does it look more complicated than I'm making it in my head? Because I figured out how to do the other ones with the calculator, but these are just, what is it?
Let's see what we got going on here. Let's go to 30.
Yeah. So we could do one of them. I'm pretty sure I could figure out how to do the rest.
Yeah, so 30 is a simple cash flow problem. You're trying to find the net present value. So if everybody is good with this stuff, if you guys know all those, I'm going to erase this and we'll do a cash flow problem because this one is very simple.
Okay, good.
So what we're going to do you know how to do the cash flow on the, so what we'll do is, so cash flow, when you put it in the computer, cash flow 0 is going to equal 0 because we haven't done anything yet. Cash flow 1 is going to equal our first number, 12,800. When we go down, we're going to get F1, which this is like the frequency, which that'll be 1 as well because we're only getting paid that one time. We'll go down, cash flow 2 equals 15,900. F2 again will equal 1. That's our frequency. Cash flow 3 will equal 18,000. 2, 3. With F3 equal to 1. And then we've got an interest rate of 12.5%. I equals 12.5. So what you do is after you hit enter here, and we'll go through it, cash flow, second CE, because I want to clear my work, 0, enter down, cash flow 1 is 12.
I'm so sorry,
800.
Greg. Can you start from the start here? Because I haven't gotten this far on the problems.
Yeah.
So
So
you just hit the CF?
yep,
CF?
hit the CF,
Okay, I got you.
hit
It'll be
enter.
3 times or 1 time?
No.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna start from the beginning. Second, clear. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit CF. That takes us there. I'm going to hit enter. Hold on one sec. Live enable. Let's see if that works. I'm gonna hit enter down on CF0. Sorry, this is CF cash flow. This, and I'm gonna put 28. I'm gonna put 12,800. Enter down. FO. This is gonna be FO1, which is just your frequency. So 1 is gonna be 1 because we're only getting that amount one time. I'm gonna hit enter on the 1 and go down to CO2, which is number 2, which is 15,900. Enter down. Again, that brings us to the FO2. It's going to stay 1. Enter down. The CO3, the cash flow 3, is going to be 18,000. 8, 1, 2, 3. Enter down. 1, hit enter, go down, and we're on CO4. We don't have a CO4, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the NPV button right next to it, and it's going to bring up the I. The I is our interest rate, which for this is 12.5%. So we're going to type in 12.5, hit enter, go down. It's going to bring us to NPV, and we're going to hit compute. When we hit compute, that gives us 36,582.72, which is C.
I'm sorry, can you repeat after you put in 18,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
So
I have a
after,
question. Are you recording this?
yes.
Okay, great.
So when you're at the CO3, you put in 18,000, you hit enter and go down. Then you hit the FO3, right? You see the FO3?
No, I messed up. My calculator is only doing CF0 and CO1 and FO1. Like it doesn't go to Q.
Are you hitting
Am I the only
enter?
one that-
Here, we can do it together.
Maybe we can put the.
All right, let me set this down. So what we're gonna do is we're going to come to cash flows, right? Hit
Okay.
cash flows, and that brings up the CF0 equals 0. It's 0. So we're gonna hit enter, down. Now, hold on, let me clear this. Second, clear work. So we do it all over. CF, enter, down. So we're at CO1, right? Our CO1 is 12,800. So we're gonna type that in, 12,800. I typed it in, and I'm gonna hit enter. All right, enter, and then I'm gonna hit down.
Hey, Greg, real quick.
Yeah.
How do I clear the CFO? I've been hitting clear. It doesn't clear that 12,800.
Hit second,
Okay.
and then hit the CE where it says clear work. See how
Oh,
that
there
works?
you go.
Yeah.
See, man, I know how to work this, man.
So I'm gonna keep going from the FO1. We're at the FO1. It says one,
Okay.
right? We're gonna hit enter, and then we're gonna hit down. That brings us to the CO2. All right. So we're at the CO2. The CO2 is 15,900. All right, 15,900. We're gonna hit enter, and the enter is the one right next to the compute. So we're gonna hit enter, and then we're gonna hit down again. All right, and that brings us to the FO2. The FO2 is going to be 1. And we're going to, when we're at the FO2, we're going to hit enter, and then we're going to hit down again. And that brings us to the CO3. The CO3, we're going to type in 18,000. Okay, 18,000. We're going to hit enter, and then we're going to hit down. And that brings us to the FO3. The FO3 is going to be 1 as well. So we're going to hit enter again, and we're going to hit down. Now that brings us to the CO4. We don't have a CO4 cash flow. So what we're going to do is this NPV button right next to the CF NPV, we're going to hit that NPV button. All right. And it brings up an I. This is our interest rate. So what we're going to do, our discount rate, our interest rate is 12.5. So we're going to type 12.5, right? We're going to hit enter. You see, it puts it in, and we're going to hit down again. When we hit down, it brings up net present value. When we get to the net present value, we're going to hit compute. Boop. And when we do, we get 582.72 if we round up.
I got it. You know what I was doing? When you were saying hit enter, I was hitting the equal sign.
Yeah, and that takes you all the way out of it.
It did. It did. So I got it. I got it. Thanks.
No problem.
Which one was a compute one? It was just a CPT?
Yeah.
I think I got it wrong. FO3 18.
Now, when you get to the FO3 and you have the 1, you hit enter and go down to the CO4. We don't have a CO4, so you hit the NPV button right next to cash flow, and that brings up an I. That I, you're going to put in our interest rate, which is 12.5%. Enter, and then go down, and it's going to bring up NPV. When you get to that NPV, you just hit compute, and it brings it all up.
Okay.
Does anybody want to do one more? We can do 31.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Let's do it. So what we're going to do is go to cash flow, hit second, and then hit this CE down here. This is clear work. This is going to clear out our cash flow thing so we don't have numbers in it, so it won't mess up our computations later on.
Okay, what did you say again? Hit what?
When we go to cash flows, hit second, and then hit this bottom left button, the CE. It's the clear work, and that'll clear it out.
Okay.
So we cleared that. So let's do 31. So we'll hit our cash flow button, brings up our screen. There is nothing for 0. So we're going to hit enter up here by compute, and then we're going to hit down. And that puts us at the CO1. Our CO1 is 42. Again, we're on 31. So our CO1 is 42,800. So 42,800, right? So we're going to hit enter and go down. Now that brings us to our FO1, which is frequency. It's just 1. We're getting that payment one time. So we're going to hit enter and go down. and that brings us to our CO2. Our CO2 is 56,700. So we type that in, we hit enter, and then we go down, which brings us to our FO2. Again, our frequency is 1. We're only getting that payment one time. So we're going to hit enter, and we're going to go down. That brings us to our CO3. Our CO3 is 37,100. 37,100. So we type in 37,100, we hit our enter button, and we go down. That brings us to our FO3, which again is still 1. So we hit enter, and we go down again. Now that brings us to our CO4. In this question, we don't have a 4. So what we do is we go to NPV. You have this NPV button right next to cash flow. NPV, and that brings up the I, which is interest. We require an 18% return, so we require 18% interest. We're going to type in 18, hit enter, and go down. That brings us to our net present value screen. Whenever we get here, we just hit compute. When we hit compute, it gives us 99,572.45, which is E.
Hey, Greg, it's
Yeah.
Dawana. I don't mean to be like slow or whatever. Can you do
No,
that
you're
one
fine.
just one more time? I'm
Sure.
sorry.
So we're going to go to cash flow again. We got to clear it. So we're going to do second clear work. This is to make sure we don't have any numbers, because let's say we did a 5-year cash flow and now we're doing 3, it's going to keep those extra 2 years in there. So we want to make sure we clear it out. All right, so we go to cash flow, right? And it brings up this CF0. What we're going to do is hit enter and go down. That brings us to our CO1. This is year 1. And in year 1, we're going to do 31 again, okay? In year 1, they're going to pay us $42,800. So we're going to type in 42,800, and we're going to hit enter, and we're going to go down. That brings us to our FO1. This is the frequency. Since we're going to get paid that one time this year, it's going to be 1. So we're going to have 1, we're going to hit enter and go down. That brings us to our CO2. Our CO2, which is what we're getting paid in the second year, is 56,700. 56,700. So we type that in, we hit enter, and we go down. That brings us to our FO2. Again, we're only getting paid that one time. So we hit enter and go down. That brings us to our CO3. Our CO3 is 37,100. So we're going to type 37,100 into our CO3. We're going to hit enter, and we're going to go down. That brings us to our FO3. So our FO3 is still 1. We're going to hit enter and go down. Now that brings us to CO4. We're in the 4th year. We don't have a cash flow there. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit this NPV button right next to compute. That brings up I, which is our interest rate. We're going to type in 18, which is our interest rate, our rate of return that we want. We're going to hit enter, which gives us 18 as I, and we're going to hit down. And that brings up this NPV screen. This is the net present value. That's what we want to find. All we do from here is hit compute, and it brings up the 99,572.45.
Okay, I got it. The only thing I messed up on is trying to clear it.
Yes, you got to make sure it's clear, or else it gets all kinds of wonky.
So what do I hit to clear it again?
You hit second.
Second.
And then this CE, you see above it, it says clear work. When you hit second, that's what it is. And it clears it out. Also, this is the same thing for time value of money. If you do a time value of money, hit the second and then hit the FV, which is clear TVM, and it clears it out.
Okay, because when I hit second and I hit clear work, it made me think like it cleared, but then when I went to work the problem out with you just a few minutes ago, when you would tell me to put the numbers in like 56, 700, it was already a number there, so I just typed over top of it. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong to clear it.
I'm not sure. Whenever I'm like here, I hit
Just click
second,
back on
clear, and then just
CF.
clear all the way. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God, that was so easy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh man, you saved me some time right there, man. Woo, I'm glad we went through that.
Me
So that's
too,
when
'cause
you're
I
trying
was
to
so
get,
confused.
yeah, so that's when you're trying to get the cash flow, right?
Yeah.
That is the net present value of cash flow. So at the end of this, there's a certain amount of money, right? And I can actually tell you what it is. Actually, I cannot. So what this is, let's say we're investing in a project for a bank or something, or a company. The company needs the money. And they say they're going to give us these amount of payments over the next 3 years. I require a certain amount of percentage in return for me giving them my money. It's like giving them a loan. I want this much money back. So they tell me how much they're going to give me those 3 years. This is how I figure out how much it's worth right now. So that way, so for this one, 31, they're like, somebody approaches me, hey, we need a loan. We'll give you $42,800 the first year, $56,700 the second year, and $37,100 on the third year, and then we'll be done. I require 18% back on my money. So when I run this, I get 99,572.45. That's the most amount of money I'll give them, which that means whenever they give me my 3 payments back, let's see how much it comes up to. 42,800 plus 56,700 plus 37,100 equals $136,600. So I give them 99,572.45. When they finally pay me back with that 18% interest that I'm looking for, that's how much money I'll get total. So it's telling you the total amount your money is worth right now based on the future money you're going to return and the interest rate you're looking at. Does that make sense?
Does. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I guess I got some homework to do, man. So I'll
Yeah,
get
I'm
back to it.
gonna,
Appreciate you.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
rewatch your stuff so that way I can know the steps like by myself. Oh my God, everybody is stressed on thing. They should have came to the Zoom, seriously.
Yeah, I saw everybody talking about losing their 4.0. Now so all of the math we did before with ratios and all is just basic math: add, subtract, multiply, divide. Now these cash flow and the future value money, present value money, it looks really bad, but that's if you're trying to do it on paper. With this calculator, it's nothing. Once you know what you're looking for, it's cake.
Yeah.
Now, if you're trying to do it on paper, yeah, you're gonna have a heck of a time, but we have these calculators. We don't have to do that.
Yeah, I just need to learn like how you did it on the calculator, the steps, because yeah, I was trying to do it on the paper and it was making me delirious. Yeah, baby. I love you too.
Craig,
Yeah.
right. And I'm wondering, so how many equation or formulas did you put on your card?
As of right now, none. I haven't put any on it yet. I still got to write it.
Okay. So, but you're going to put the ones from your sheet and that's it.
Yes.
Okay. That's the part that makes me the most nervous, is just making sure I have all the formulas put down correctly.
Yeah, I would write all of the ones he has on his PowerPoints. That's what I did. I just wrote
Yeah.
them all down here. Like, so, you know, page 1, page 2, and then we get into time value of money, page 3. I would just write those down. And then of course, all the ones from chapter 1 as well. So like networking capital, cash flow from assets, cash flow to creditors, all the cash flow equations too. I'm gonna put those in the ratios. And then you should be pretty well set from there.
Okay, thank you. And then, so the video, someone referenced the video that he did to set up your calculator, but I saw the video that wasn't done by him. Did Dr. Toy actually do one himself?
I don't think so. I think,
Okay.
I think it's all the ones he just put in, like the
Yeah.
additional thing, that's it.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just want to make sure I wasn't missing one in his communication.
Yeah, I haven't seen one from him specifically.
Okay, and so, okay. So thank you so much. This has been a huge help.
No problem.
All right.
Is it?
I gotta take off. Thank you, Greg.
No problem. Is everybody good? Anything else anyone wants to go over?
I think I'm gonna watch your video again on how to do 30 and 31. But it looks the way you explained it, it makes it look so much simpler, you know?
Yeah, don't, obviously trying to teach yourself this stuff is terrible because you've got a PDF of a PowerPoint and questions. It
Yeah.
looks really bad, but whenever you like figure it out, it's not bad at all.
Where can we get your video?
That I have to figure out. Somebody said something in the group me about like SharePoint or something. I'm gonna try and figure out a place to upload it to like a SharePoint or something, and then find a way to just give you guys access. Otherwise, I have to like email it out to each people, and it'd take me forever.
You mean for this video?
Yeah.
Oh crap. Okay, because I was gonna watch a video again to do the steps by myself. So I won't be able to see it afterwards.
You will. I just got to figure out how. So let me see here. Someone said if you can post it on SharePoint or another cloud-based server and set it up for anybody to see who has the link, I can just put the link in like the group me. So I may reach out to Courtney. She said that. I may like email it to her and see if she knows how to do it, and then just let her handle it. But I'll get it put somewhere. It'll probably be there tomorrow because I got to download it. Which I'm going to stop recording now.